So with the latest chapter One Piece, we learned something that, at least for me, I've never even guessed that this could have been a possibility. But for me to get into it, spoilers for the latest chapter, of course, 11-13. But we have Mars finally making it to the top of Punk Records, which I honestly didn't expect this. Like, I knew Vegapunk cut out his brain, but I wouldn't think that he just kept the whole top half of his head and just incubated it. But regardless, this thing is massive. Like, look at Mars all the way down here, and then you see how big this brain is. And keep in mind, this dude is like 12 feet tall. But while everybody around the world is trying to figure out what it is Vegapunk's going to say, some people really aren't trying to pay attention because they couldn't care less. But of course, Vegapunk was going to leave the real transponder snail up there. He's a genius after all. And Mars is just pissed that he got baited. And now we can see all the Gorosei like coming to terms with the fact that, yeah, this information's finna get out. There ain't nothing we could do about it. So honestly, they're just starting to do what it is that they can. Like Saturn trying to take out Robin right here because it's like, all right, if this information gets out, I can at least kill you. But now Robin is the first Straw Hat to put all this together. Like, yo, this is one of the 5 elders? Are all these monsters the 5 elders? Because remember, they all showed up in their demon form. And I'm sure they did that so that nobody knew what it is they were. They just thought monsters came to Egghead and blew it up. But for what it's worth, the weaker Straw Hats seem like to be doing a pretty decent job at protecting Robin from Saturn, so hopefully they can keep this up. At least until Vegapunk's giant robot gets back up. Meanwhile, when we get to Sanji, look at the gap between him and Ethan right here. Notice, Ethan is also in mid-sword swing. Sanji's able to make it from here to where Ethan is in the middle of swinging his sword, to block his sword swing with his kick and then come up and uppercut him with another one. I ain't gonna lie, Sanji's been embarrassing a lot of people with his speed feats lately. Like, he is probably the second fastest in the series, no holds bar. He ain't gotta be the strongest dude, but it's definitely looking like he's gonna become the fastest dude out here. He's only 21. But then Ethan bites back because again, nobody knows what these things are. He just thought he was kicking an old horse centaur man. But now Bonney's in the mix doing things that we figured she could have done like a while ago, but it's good to see that she's doing them now. Using her devil fruit somewhat ability, she's able to look into a future where she became a giant and then become a giant in this timeline. But now that we think about it, I think it's a very good decision for Oda to give Bonney a 12-year-old this ability. It reminds me of Yaoyorozu from My Hero Academia because I do remember in an interview once that Horikoshi said that Yaoyorozu's quirk was supposed to be for a pro hero. But giving a pro hero the ability to just create matter out of fat lipids would be so busted that he thought, you know what, I'm gonna give it to a student so, you know, people don't ask me why I'm not doing the most broken things with it. In a similar sense, that's what Bonney's going through. Because if she was older and knew what it is she could do, she could tap into some crazy abilities. But for right now, only time will tell. But much like Vegapunk stalling all throughout this chapter, I'm stalling throughout this video. So let me just cut to the chase and tell you what it is that Vegapunk said. And it is that the world of One Piece is going to sink into the ocean. Therefore, their world is ending actively. And this means that the world's been sinking for a while because Clover found this information out way back during the Ohara incident. And there were also hints of this all throughout the series because we see things like Aqua Laguna during Water 7. They had to build this city to deal with the increasing waves and tides that were happening every year around this time. And a lot of what's happening right now reminds me of stuff that happened in the Bible. Similar to how their world is going to sink into the ocean, God flooded the world for 40 days, 40 nights, and the only things that were left around were, Noah and everything that he had inside of the ark. Which, remember, there is a Noah's Ark in the world of One Piece at Fishman Island, and it's massive. It took several Sea King to even drag this thing around. And keep in mind, this is how big Sea King are. The Straw Hat ship is at the very tip of the nose of this one. So I would say for an arc like this to exist and already be made, it shows me that this flood that floods the entire world of the world of One Piece happened before. Now, for all we know, it could have been because the world government used their mother flame whatever and blew up whatever island was not rocking with them. Because we see after they do this to Leloucia, the world's oceans all raised by 1 whole meter. Or maybe this is the reason why the world government doesn't care about blowing up islands and raising the world's water level, because they know this whole thing is sinking anyway. So in the near future, I could see a situation come up where the world is starting to flood and it's like, yo, we got to get to Fishman Island and get to the Noah. Maybe Luffy can turn to like the biggest giant we've ever seen and just pick it up and, put all of his friends and everybody inside of it. But Oda does love throwing curveballs, so what if we see the world government blow up the Noah? But then that would be where Crocus and Laboon come into the picture, because don't forget that Laboon has like a whole network inside of his body. Like Crocus added all this to the interior of Laboon, so Laboon can house some people inside of him. Not as many as the Ark, but in a pinch situation, Laboon can get us and our friends out of wherever we are. But one final thing is, I really am curious on how Blackbeard's gonna look at this information. Because overall, Blackbeard's the closest person on the seas to Luffy while also being his polar opposite. Because both of these characters live freely, they do whatever they want in life. It's just for Luffy doing whatever he wants, he won't impede on your freedom to exist in the same space that he's living in. Meanwhile, Blackbeard thinks he's free to do whatever he wants, including free to do whatever he wants to you, if he wants to do it. So it's like they both want a free world, but a completely different one at the same time. And for someone like Blackbeard that never had any morals or anything with anything that he did to learn that the world is going to end, he might just start wilding out and doing whatever the freak it is he want to do. Even more so than what he already has been doing. So at this rate, I'm not surprised if he's going to be the final villain of the series. Because when it comes to the Gorosei, even these dudes still act with like some sense of, all right, we got responsibilities, we got things to do, even after this information gets out. Unless Vegapunk reveals Emu, I do not see the Gorosei being like, all right, they know that the world's finna end, we're gonna reveal Emu too. They're not gonna do that if they don't have to. Meanwhile, there would no longer be anything to stop Blackbeard from doing whatever it is that he wants to do. But at the end of the day, there ain't no break next week, so I'll see y'all next week with the next chapter, and for that one, I will go live. It's just that I read this one like 3 in the morning, so